with background of Korean history. The Korean peninsula is surrounded by Japan and China. From the ancient times, they are deeply connected to each other in many ways. China and Japan have always been great regional superpowers, so Koreans have often had very hard times dealing with them. Fortunately, there was a buffer zone called Manchuria between China and Korea. Even with Japan, Koreans are separated by the sea. Thus, Korea was able to maintain its independence and to preserve a cultural identity. Korea was not subordinated to those two countries. There were, however, exceptional times. Korea's climate and topographic conditions are not ideal for rice farming, but Koreans have worked so diligently that they could harvest rice as much as necessary for their self-sufficiency. Even in traditional times, Korea's population density was very high compared to other countries worldwide. This is not a gift brought by nature's blessings, but the result of their advanced agricultural techniques and knowledges. In Korea and Manchuria, Koreans had lived together with various ethnic groups. Over the past 2,000 years, Koreans have absorbed some of them one after the other. From a linguistic and cultural point of view, the Korean peninsula has been reconstructed as a single nation state since the 17th century. There are some regional differences, but no single minority ethnic group exists on the Korean peninsula. Korea is one of the most successful countries in the sense of historical and cultural integration. Now, characteristics of Korean history and culture in some words. In studying Korean history and culture for the last 50 years, I discovered the following 4 characteristics. This is my subjective opinion, but I hope that many of you will agree with me. First, it is a fact that Koreans excel accumulating knowledges in specific fields. For an example, back in the days when Buddhism was the state religion, they collected almost all of Buddhist scriptures, texts translated in classical Chinese. You are well aware that the Tripitaka Koreana, 발만대장경, compiled by Koreans during the Goryeo dynasty, it is regarded as the most important text when studying East Asian Buddhism. One more thing to add, Koreans intensively studied Neo-Confucianism and developed many theories about it. As a result, there are many books and documents on Confucian culture in Korea. The Annals of the Joseon Dynasty, 조선왕조실록, and the Diary of 승정원, 승정원일기 are also as world record cultural heritages designated by UNESCO. Second, it is very impressive that Korea has a highly developed organizational culture. A variety of private organizations have founded there, especially since the 17th century. In rural society, ture or peasant organizations and ké or various private organizations were operated. Local literati established Hyangyak or Confucian codes and organized lineage groups to manage various needs. Even today, you will know that school reunions and local associations have greatly developed in Korea. Social organizations exist in every country. However, it is rare to find a country where diverse social organizations move dynamically like Korea. Third, Korea is a single-valued society. This has good points and bad points. Koreans are highly achievement-oriented, and surprisingly, everyone sets the same goals and competes fiercely. There is no other country where universities are so thoroughly ranked as in Korea. Also, it is difficult to find a comparable country where invisible hierarchy among occupations is as clear as Korea. Finally, Korea is truly a dynamic society. changes happen too quickly. If you go back to that person 3 years later with a business card you received during your visit to Korea this summer, there is a high probability that you will not be able to contact with him. Modern Koreans are also very active in cultural scenes, so there are many successful artisans, especially in the field of music and arts. The so-called Korean wave Hallyu, such as K-pop or K-drama, are popular in many countries. Koreans are extraordinarily sensitive to the global trends, and they know how to properly blend them with their own culture. Next, overview of Korean history 1, Ancient and Middle Ages. From now on, let's take a brief look at the historical characteristics that appeared over times. First, let's talk about the characteristics of the period from the distant ancient times to the Three Kingdoms. In those days, the warriors ruled Korea. It was a common thing in world history. Humans have been living on the Korean peninsula since the Paleolithic period. You can see the relics of the Paleolithic period with your own eyes at Seokjangri in Gongju this summer. It was during the Bronze Age that states first appeared on the Korean peninsula. It is said that Joseon or Gojoseon was the first state to be established in Manchuria. It would be difficult to ascertain whether that was the case. In fact, there were so many walled states on the Korean peninsula and throughout Manchuria that we could not even guess their real number. Among them, the representative were Gojoseon and Samhan, or three Han states. As the ancient nations constantly fought and united with each other, the three kingdoms emerged as the winners. In chronological order, Baekje came the first major power, followed by Goguryeo, as it was located in deep southeast part of the peninsula. Silla grew the most slowly. Kaya, of which territory was also on the remote southeast, was rich in iron resources and, on the contrary, suffered from checks and interferences from various countries at home and abroad. Since ancient times, many Korean states have maintained close ties with China and Japan and have often been greatly influenced by them, especially by China. This is Kaya, they are three kingdoms, united Silla and Parhe, the land of Buddhism. Goguryeo Kingdom in the north and Baekje, which occupied the plains in the west, received a lot of political and cultural stimulations due to its convenient transportation with China. However, Silla in the southeast was not like that. Then, in the middle of the 6th century, Silla succeeded in transformation. The kingdom occupied the Han River basin in the central and western part of the Korean peninsula, providing a breakthrough in national development. Shortly before that, they also occupied the iron-rich land of Kaya states. Silla, a latecomer among the three kingdoms, allied with China's reunified dynasty, the Tang dynasty, to overthrow Baekje and Goguryeo one after another, and eventually emerged as the first dynasty to unify the Korean peninsula. The Tang dynasty tried to take over the entire peninsula, but Silla was able to defeat the Tang by attracting refugees from Baekje and Goguryeo as well. Thus, the unified Silla emerged. At that time, the Tang dynasty slowly began to fall into internal chaos, so it was not possible to punish Silla by force. Since then, the Koreans have achieved social and political stability for a little more than a century and reached the cultural golden age. In the Silla period, there was a unique status system called the bone and rank, 골품제, or strict hereditary status system which stabilized social order. However, as time went on, the voices of lower noblemen, 육두품, 식두품, grew louder and louder, who were frustrated with their social disadvantage due to the system. When Goguryeo fell, the refugees established a new kingdom called Parhe, together with Malgal people or Manchu ancestors. Parhe and Silla greatly developed Buddhist culture while emphasizing the usefulness of Confucianism in politics. Now, the Goryeo dynasty. United Silla neglected reforms and society became increasingly disorganized. By the end of the 19th century, maritime powers on the southwest coast stood on the stage of Korean history. General Wangun was a central figure. As a powerful representative of the merchant family of Kaesong region, he united the merchants out of the southwest coast. At first, Wangun started his career as a minister of Gungye, who rose up in Cheolwon in Gangwon province. At the beginning of the 10th century, Wangun destroyed the later Baekje, founded by Gyeonwon, and reunified the Korean peninsula after the surrender of the Silla's royal family. Wangun liquidated the old hereditary status system, which was a social dissatisfaction. In the process, Wangun accepted the theory of feng shui. Using the geomancy, he succeeded in forming a sense of unity among people. The Goryeo king breathed new hope into the people. That is, regardless of their social status, people believed that they could succeed in the new dynasty if only they were lucky and talented to discover a profitable spot in the geomancy. Goryeo dynasty, founded by Wang family, changed dramatically during the reign of his son, King Gwangjong, by implementing the civil service examination system. The new dynasty began to be transformed into a centralized aristocratic state centered on Confucianism. The traditional ruling power or the warriors were withdrawn and the scholar aristocracy took over the country. The frame of the ancient society ruled by Korean caste system was broken, and the medieval bureaucratic state was born, dominated by the scholars who passed the civil service examinations. However, the historical transition was not smooth. In the 12th century, the warriors protested, and an era in which the warriors took power again opened. For a century after that, warriors ruled the country, and the royal authority fell to the ground. Meanwhile, a major change took place in China. The Mongols, a nomadic people who scrapped their lives on the Silk Road, gained power and founded the Yuan dynasty. Mongolia, the world's greatest empire, conquered many parts of the world and repeatedly invaded the Korean peninsula as well. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Goryeo royal family and the scholar aristocracy devised a plan to defeat the ruling warriors and regain power. The operation was finally successful, and Neo-Confucianism, which came from Mongolia, Yuan dynasty, in the 15th century, gained more and more influence in Korea. The Goryeo dynasty enjoyed stability for as long as other old Korean states, many hundred years. The kingdom also engaged in trade with merchants from Muslim world and China. I would say that Goryeo was the most open one among all dynasties of Korea. However, as the history of the dynasty continued for about 500 years, many problems were accumulated in the 14th century. Moreover, the political situation in China changed significantly in the later half of the 14th century. It is said to be the influence of the Black Death. The Yuan dynasty collapsed and the Ming dynasty established by the Han Chinese. Using these changes, radical reformers overthrew the Goryeo dynasty and founded the Joseon state.